Good evening and welcome to round 4 of the Phoenix Sim Racing F4 World Series here at Spa-Francorchamps. It's great to have you on board. Welcome to everyone in the YouTube chat. It's great to have you, and co-commentating with me today is the one and only Fiesta Cup driver Thomas Merritt. Thomas, it's great to have you on board again. Tell us, how's your week been?
Yeah, it's been very good. I've done a bit of testing in preparation for this, just so I can get a feel for how the cars are around this iconic circuit. And I have to say, I think we're in for a treat tonight. The cars they're lively round here, to say the least. And with everyone being so close after this free practice, I think we're in for a bit of a treat for racing tonight. But apart from that, it's just getting everything underway for round 1 of the Fiesta Junior Championship this weekend that kicks off at Snetterton. And last week I was competing in a 6-hour endurance on my sim solo, which I managed to bring home a P2 in the Radical SR8 on iRacing at Silverstone, which I was incredibly happy about. So yeah, no, it's been full on, but it's been good to be busy.
I was going to say, talking about that more than anything, we were talking off stream about this, and fair play to you for doing 6 hours without being able to get out the seat and go into the toilet, because I would not have managed that. So props to you, and well done for coming second in that one. That's some absolutely amazing stuff. So yeah, big well done. Okay, cool. Should we have a look at last week's top 3? I think we should, right? So Jonathan Ogden led the pack in first with a absolutely beautiful points haul, and leading the way for absolutely everyone, which is great to see from Johnny, because he's had a couple of tough races so far, and he's managed to bring it back. So no, that's definitely a confidence boost for him. Giuliano Giarco in second place for the WRT team, and then Cristiano Bettini, HGE Racing eSport in third. So a great points haul for them. I think it's one thing to just pay attention to is Kyle's last minute antics in race 2 and come around that last corner and finish in P11, which I think really hurt his championship standing. But when we do look at last week's top 10, and actually the driver stand as it currently stands, Kyle Felvis is running away with it with 119 points out front for HFT, followed on by Thomas Potter in second place with 91 points. So quite a gap there and quite a deficit for him to make up. But we know that Thomas Potter's an incredibly fast driver, and with the right consistency could do incredibly well. We are on round 4 now of 8, so halfway through this championship, and I think this is where it starts to get a little bit interesting. We're looking at the times in the official practice, and they're incredibly close between the top 10 already, and then from the top 10 down to P20, again separated by potentially just about half a second. So Spa is shaping up to be an incredible run. Alexander Link in P3, followed by Cristiano Bettini in P4. The WRT team of Alessandro Schiurti, Giuliano Giarco and Lorenzo Centro rounding out P5, P6 and P7. Nicky Taylor coming in P8 with 72 points, with Josh Martin leading the pack in P9. Jonathan Ogden rounding out the top 10. Tell me, you've done a bit of practice around this circuit already. We've heard from some of the guys in the official practice session. What was it that you found around this track that was probably the most difficult? And going into this race, what would you do in terms of setup to try and get the car at its optimum in race trim?
So interestingly, just from doing just a few laps, I was very quickly able to pick up that the car really doesn't like trail braking around this circuit. So I found myself moving the brake bias more towards the front, just to stop the Riz from locking. And over the course of a 20-minute race, I think that's going to be crucial for the drivers to make sure they've done that already if they haven't. And I think that rear locking could potentially, if you move the brake bias too far forwards to the front, that could then create more lockups, which then in turn could ruin some tyres, allowing some others into play. So I think that's a really interesting point. And I think the other big point to pick up on for tonight with these single seaters, obviously quite small cars, very low to the ground. These drivers are trying to get the maximum performance, so they're potentially lowering the ride height. The cars really don't suit the curbs around this circuit. It unsettles them, turns it into snap oversteer, or it bottoms out on the curves, which all don't help the rotation of the car. And I think if drivers are consistently using that, they're graining their tyres, and it could see a few mistakes creep in, especially from the pro guys as well. Obviously they're trying to find the maximum out of it all, and if they use too much or go over the limit, then the circuit's going to bite. So I think we're in for an interesting one tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Nikki and Kyle were talking in the voice chat on in terms of the official practice, and seemed to have found something that aided their ability to go a hell of a lot quicker around this circuit. So I'm not sure what that is, and they didn't let onto it obviously, because there were a lot of other drivers in there. But just looking at the free practice times now. P5 and P6, actually Johnny Ogden leading the way in free practice with a 2:21.3 over the likes of Carl Felvis and Nicky Taylor with a 2:21.533 and a 2:21.664. So potentially Johnny's found something else, as well as Andrea Ruggi and Giuliano Giarco, separated by about 200ths of a second. So again, yeah, it is shaping up to be an incredibly interesting race. So for those that haven't joined us before, our running order looks like this. At 6:30 p.m. today, the official practice session started, and the drivers went out and honed their setups and got themselves in the zone ready to go for this evening. At 7:30, which is right about now, and they've literally just finished free practice, is our qualifying. That's a 10-minute qualifying session. And then at 7:50, we have the sprint one, which is 20 minutes plus one lap. And then at 8:25, we have the reverse grid race as well. So lots of exciting racing to come. But should we get kick-started into qualifying now? I think we should. So let's head over and see what the guys are doing out there. So we're just about to switch over from free practice, and the guys are in the pits currently as it stands. Let's see who makes their way out the pits first and gets that first qualifying lap down.
Yeah, 100%. I think getting out early is going to be crucial in this session, more so than all the other circuits, purely because of the fact it's such a long lap round here. You're going to get very sort of little laps to get your sort of lap hooked up, and to get the maximum out of your qualifying lap. So I think if there's a few mistakes that creep in, you haven't got the time to afford this. So this is going to be crucial, and you could find a bit of a mix-up in the running order. But like you say, Jonathan Ogden coming in with a fantastic time in practice. So it'll be interesting to see if we potentially see the likes of Kyle Felvis and Nicky Taylor and Giuliano Giarco, real championship contenders, potentially a little further down the grid, and some other obscure drivers come into play here.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what, the WRT team, weren't setting that fast the times in terms of free practice, but in the last 5 minutes of the session have jumped in there and pumped in some times that potentially people weren't expecting, and I think that's maybe caught a few drivers off guard more than anything. But Johnny Ogden, coming off the back of a few difficult races, has gone and put it P1 for practice. It'd be interesting to see if he can make that happen again for qualifying. Johnny Ogden's a real life racing driver. He's done the Focus Cup. He's now racing in his new championship, so he's no stranger to running these races, and raced in many virtual sim racing leagues as well. So yeah, it'd be good to see what they can do. I mean, when you look at the past 4 races, there's been a number of race winners. There's been some incredible racing between a lot of the drivers, and it might be an opportunity here at Spa to turn that all on its head. So yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, indeed. There's only 45 seconds, so the drivers will now be going through their pre-qualifying rituals, making sure they're in the zone, everything's set up, and they'll be in the best possible frame of mind here. It's going to be super tight, 5/10 separating the top 9, and with the tow being so effective around here, I'm wondering if some people are potentially going to slow down and wait for a quicker driver to come through to then gain a slipstream off them to maximise on their performance.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder whether some of the teams that are racing within here, there isn't a constructor standings, it's purely drivers championship only. But some of the race teams that are in here, and the multiples of them, actually working together in the free practice just to see what that tow's like. So whether they decide to tow each other, and maybe one goes out for a flying lap, the other one goes out afterwards, and they run in together, we don't know. But we know that the tow is incredibly powerful down here, and something that we alluded to originally when we were talking about Austria was, maybe it's not worth qualifying on pole. Maybe you actually want to start P2 for the run down into T2. And actually, that wasn't as powerful as what we thought originally at Austria, and you didn't gain that much of an advantage. But the drivers have assured me that round Spa, the tow is worth a hell of a lot of time. especially down the straight. And if you get a good run for a Rouge, you're on for an incredibly good time, potentially 2 to 3 tenths of a second here. So it's all systems go. Will the race teams work together, or will they all fight it all out to see who comes out on top?
Yeah, 100%. They're not giving themselves much gaps at the moment, but we've only just started the outlap, so I just saw there Giuliano Giacco warming his tyres, doing some braking down the straight, building the temperature in. As I alluded to earlier, you know, that first lap, you've almost got to be straight up to pace, so he's doing it. You can hear the brakes squealing as they're super cold. So you know the drivers will be doing their utmost to get the cars in the right frame of mind, get themselves in the right frame of mind, and set themselves up for a good lap. And interestingly, people like Giuliano don't have their teammates around them at the moment, and he's still warming up his tyres, so he could just be going, you know, pedal to the metal and focusing on his own times. But people like Kyle Felvis and Nicky Taylor are together on the circuit, so it'll be interesting to see what works out better.
Yeah, so listen to some of the drivers again in that official practice session. Potentially low downforce setups. They've reduced the ride height of the cars. They've got them running as low as they possibly can. Sometimes this can be a recipe for disaster. Sometimes this can work out incredibly well. But what it does make sure of is that the car is right on tenterhooks. The car is going to be dialed in, but one wrong move and it is game over. I think one thing to pay attention to is that Spa is an incredibly long lap, right? They've got 8 minutes of qualifying left to go. If they mess up their flying lap, they've got over 2 minutes to get back to the pitch, change their tyres, put some more fuel in and get back out there again. Then another 2 minutes to get round on their outlap and get the tyres warm again to go out again. So really, it's a 2-shot qualifying. You have 2 laps to make it right. So you never know. This could turn into a bit of a battle for pole here. And actually, those who are quickest in practice may not necessarily be the quickest ones coming into the actual first race.
Yeah, 100%. I think from a driver's perspective, I would have fueled the car up and try and, you know, put the least amount of pressure on those tyres so I don't have to come into the pits and try my absolute utmost not to make a mistake and, you know, damage the car at all, because I think it's so crucial just to keep lapping, because you never know what sort of first lap you might get or even second lap. And by that point, it's almost a bit too late. So it'll be interesting to see drivers' strategies here going into this qualifying session, as we see the drivers now heading up Eau Rouge and into the first section of chicanes to start their first flying lap, as we see Nicky and Kyle working together very well.
Yeah, no, I think it's one of these things, right? We saw it at Austria, the difference in driving styles of these cars. They seem to be incredibly understeery for a lot of drivers. And there's some drivers out there that are doing really well to adapt their setups to make it as sort of front-ended as possible, and almost Max Verstappen-like in the Red Bull, I suppose. And there's other drivers that are really struggling with it. And, you know, I think that this is going to be pivotal in, you know, who actually qualifies on pole and who's going to set the fastest times. As we're on board now with Andrea Ruggi, and you can see here just the amount of understeer that he had coming through that left-hander. He's managed to collect it back onto the track, but you know, this is what they're going to struggle with. And in terms of tyre degradation and tyre life, this could be a really difficult one for him as he goes completely broad sideways, manages to keep it going, but that's going to be a lot of time lost for him. And just like we alluded to before, that's potentially that lap out the window, and he's going to have to come back in and go out for a second run.
Yeah, 100%. That could have also ruined his tyres, you alluded to. And this is going to be really interesting. You see Thomas Potter up behind him now. This could be really crucial for Thomas Potter to get that first towed lap in, and then for the rest of the session, because he's out front, he can just be lapping at his own sort of pace for the final 2 or 3 laps. But the drivers are now coming into the bus stop chicane, so it'll be interesting to see sort of what the laps are like compared to free practice. And if there's going to be any improvements or obscure drivers that come into play here. Andrea Ruggi is going to be the first across the times, followed by Thomas Potter. So he comes across the line and completes a 21.5, followed by Thomas Potter on a 21.8. So about 2 tenths off what we saw Jonathan Ogden do in free practice. But it's super close. See people like Jordan Osborne and Nicky Taylor sort of 2 seconds off, where it's not what they want to be, but it's still potentially warming up, so they don't have to do that pit stop and go back out again.
Yeah, I wonder if, you know, some of these drivers might say, you know what, I'm not going to go for 2 runs, I'm going to go for 1 outright lap. Maybe spend 2 laps getting the tyres in the optimum window and then sending it. Now, that is a dangerous way of looking at it, because if you mess up that lap, you could potentially start P22. But for some people, if they can manage to nail that lap, then it's all to play for. I mean, we see this a lot, and we see it time and time again. those that are quickest in the practice sessions aren't necessarily the quickest in quali. It's about who can hold their nerve and who can hold their bottle more than anything, and get that lap down. I mean, realistically, they want to get that banker lap in first, set some sort of half decent time, and then go in with the fast lap straight afterwards. I think there's nothing worse than messing up your first lap and then knowing that all the pressure is on you for that second lap to not get it wrong, because if you do, that's your qualifying over. And if you put it in a wall or anything like that, that's it. You could be starting from the back, and if you're one of the championship contenders, you know, potentially in the top 3, points mean prizes, right? And you know, it's not all about, you know, finishing first in every race, but it's getting that haul of points. And I think that's what Kyle came a cropper with in the second race from last week when he spun it on the last corner and, you know, dropped down to P11. Although he's still leading the championship, you know, that could be the difference between him winning and potentially losing by a couple of points after the next 4 races.
Yeah, 100%. It's super close between every single driver here. But interestingly, Jonathan Ogden has actually proved you wrong. As you were alluding to, you know, we don't always see the drivers in free practice go quicker in qualifying, which is absolutely correct. But Jonathan Ogden here, as he spins, but he's gone quickest by 2/10, so that's a nice healthy gap. But we are going to see some improvements, I would imagine, across the board. So the drivers are now coming into the final bus stop chicane, and it'll be interesting to see if there's any improvements and if any drivers, you know, got the grid.
Thomas, you and me tonight, we need to form a pact here. We cannot initiate the commentator's curse again. We did that far too much at Austria. We caused absolute anarchy, almost to the point. It was almost scripted. I promise it wasn't, but it was almost scripted. That caused mass mayhem. So I think we've got to rein it in a little bit, and we just let them do their thing, because if not, I feel like we might ruin a few people's runs. But you are right. Johnny Ogden has proved me wrong. Has proven that I'm talking absolute waffle, and got him pumped in that 2:21.3. But I think that goes to show how comfortable he is in the car and around this track. So, you know, obviously Spa's clicked for him. Potentially other circuits haven't. But, you know, this is a solid opportunity from him, you know, at P10 in the championship, to gain some really valuable points that he needs, actually, to work his way up the grid.
Yeah, 100%. And as we see there, Kyle Felvis with 30 kg of ballast, which is a huge amount. I suspect that's got to be affecting his top line speed. But even with that, he's only gone a tenth slower than Johnny Ogden and put it P2 with his teammate Nicky Taylor, down in P8. So it's quite a gap there. But like we mentioned before, it is not over, and the gaps are so small. Every corner and every apex and every breaking point is going to matter in this session.
It is indeed, and you know, props to Kyle. I know we talk about him a lot, but at the same time, he is doing incredibly well, and I know he's also focusing on his iRacing as well at the moment. So he's having to split his time between, you know, not only Assetto Corsa in this championship, but also his iRacing and racing in the top splits, which he does do incredibly well in. But you know, it does go to show the level of competency that some of these drivers have, you know, with the ballast. And look, I can attest to this, you know, racing in previous championships before, and you know, running 45 kilos of ballast, it hurts, and it hurts a lot. And sometimes it's frustrating more than anything, because you know you can be quicker and you know you're as fast as the rest of the people around the track, but that car does not want to do what you want it to. And that can be the biggest struggle of them all, and it's a real mental block for a lot of people if they're going to be running with ballast. So fair play to Kyle to be only a tenth off of Johnny Ogden. That's good going. That's good going.
Yeah, it very much is, as he's going through the bus stop chicane now, going up to complete his lap. These drivers are only going to get one more lap on the board, as we see Kyle there set himself up actually, so he's ruined that lap, but he's potentially going to go for one final last ditch attempt. As we see Thomas Potter, he set that quick time, similar to all the other drivers, setting that quick time at the beginning of the session and then not improving. So maybe tyre wear is quite a big factor, as we were mentioning just before the stream there. It could be affecting the drivers, and if it goes off this quickly in a qualifying session, then they're going to go off really quickly, and then they're going to have to really manage that in the races. As we see Giuliano Giacco there got up to P3, only a tenth and a half off, so the margins are small.
Yeah, some of these drivers have already finished their qualifying laps. It'd be great to hear from the YouTube chat who you think is going to take pole. I mean, it's looking like Johnny Ogden at the moment, but could Kyle potentially nab that from him? He was quick in the practice sessions, but has he got what it takes to take it off of Johnny? It's going to be a tough ask from him. especially with that ballast. You know, he's definitely the underhanded card here, but you never know. It may well be possible. Let's go on board with him and just see how he drives this car. It'd be a good opportunity just to see how this ballast is affecting him, as he's really having to wait for the car to rotate before it comes back onto the power. Again, through here, through No Name, just losing the rear end slightly and catching it. It's well held from him. But it's tough. It really is. With this ballast that he's got laid onto this car, albeit probably dead central in the middle of that cockpit. It's one of these situations where you don't know how that car's going to feel coming into each of these corners, and you've got to adapt to it in the moment. And this is where your reaction times are key. So, you know, it is what it is. But Johnny Ogden has finished his qualifying with a 2:21.362, so it's down to Kyle now, who's a 10th up on his time. This could be incredibly close here. He's lost a little bit through that right-hander. Has he got what it takes down the straight just to drag it out? This is going to be close. It's going to come down to the wire. I'm sure Kyle is getting a little nervous in his seat here. Probably a bit of sweat dripping off of his brow. But he may well make it happen and put it on pole.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really crucial for him to get pole, actually. If he can have that insight for the first corner, and then hopefully, you know, the likes of Johnny and Giuliano can battle behind and allow him to get away, which is going to be so crucial for his championship. As we see there, Thomas Potter bailing out of the lap, and Kyle's coming up to the line. What is the time going to be?
2:21.5.
It's going to be no improvement, as we see Giuliano also on a quick lap as well, but no, he's bailed out of it. So it looks like Jonathan Ogden has secured pole here for round 4 of the Phoenix Sim Racing F4 World Championship here at Spa. What a great lap. A 10th is, well, in this championship, it's quite a big margin.
It is indeed. And I'm just looking at the YouTube chat here, and there's a few people that are jumping in here. Mr. Osborne Racing, don't forget to like the stream. That is a key one. Do you know what? Over 50% of people that are watching the stream are not subscribed. So please make sure you hit that subscribe button. And make sure that you're notified every time that we go live, because we want to make sure that everyone can watch this and everyone can see it, because there are some fantastic battles that go on, and some great racing that happens between these drivers. So please like, share and subscribe, and share this with everyone around you. But in the meantime, we're going to go to a quick ad break, and we'll see you after that for the qualifying interviews.
And welcome back, everyone, after a intense qualifying there, and many congratulations to Jonathan Ogden there, bringing it home in P1. We're here with Johnny now. Johnny, how was that qualifying session for you? Obviously, some people alluded to earlier that the tyres go off quite quickly around here, which we did see with some people. How was it for yourself?
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good. The tyres do go off when you're really pushing it, but it was an all-over good lap, a bit slower than my one in practice, but my teammates really helped me out with that, giving a little bit of a toe down from turn 1 to a Rouge and up through Radion, so I think that contributed a little bit too.
Brilliant. Well, it looked like the car was almost on rails there, but we know it's not from previous rounds, and from a bit of prior testing from myself. What are your sort of thoughts going into this one? Are you just looking to stay out of trouble, or are you looking to go for your for the first win of the season?
Oh, well, obviously wins on the card, so we'll try and keep it that way. I've I've been playing with the car quite a lot over the last few days. Again, team Adam and Olivia, we've all been working together on a good setup that makes us feel comfortable going around the track for continuous laps. So hopefully, stay out of trouble, and P1 is definitely on the cards.
Brilliant. And obviously you had a really strong showing at the Red Bull Ring, bringing home the most amount of points out of everyone. Are you looking to? Is this sort of your championship return almost? We've had you on a good run so far. You don't want to commentators curse it, but how are your sort of nerves and sort of emotion feelings going into this?
Yeah, they're pretty settled until you said that. No, no, I'm feeling good. I mean, last round was a good boost of confidence. I feel like I'm learning the car more and more. It's just coming to me a bit more. It just took a while. And also getting those higher qualies, which has been helping stay out of any trouble in the early stages of the race. So they've been helping with the point scoring as well.
Brilliant. And finally, is there anyone you'd like to shout out and say on stream?
Yeah, a quick shout out to quickly my sponsors. We've got Late Night Coffee. We've got Bar 11, we've got OJ Valetin, and also Renegade. Also, big thanks to Phoenix as well for helping me as well, and Pro-Am for letting me nick their livery, which I'm racing with this year in real life too.
Brilliant. Well, good luck, Jonathan, and I'm sure we'll hopefully be speaking to you after the race.
Thank you very much. Hopefully to speak to you soon. Hopefully.
Brilliant.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
And there we go then. Johnny Ogden securing P1 for the first round of Spa here and in the first race. So big congratulations to him. So we're now going to go over to one of our guest drivers, Mr. Osborne. Jordan Osborne, talk to us. Tell us how these cars feel. Tell us how you're getting on in this championship. And what are your aims for this season?
These cars are completely different to what I'm used to. I've raced several years in the virtual British Touring Car Championship, and it's my first ever time racing on a Assetto Corsa and first ever time properly racing a rear-wheel drive car. So setups is so new to me that it's completely different to what I'm used to. But I'm slowly starting to get the hang of it. I've really struggled in practice. I could not get the front end to stick mid-turn. So I played around with it with the actual setups itself. Managed to get a little bit faster than in practice. So I'm happy about that. I'm inside the top 20 where before I was outside the top 20. So it's a good improvement by myself. But I'm just gonna take this season to learn the game, learn all the mechanics, learn the tuning, and most of all learn how everyone else races, because it's completely different to touring cars where we're door bashing every single second. We're getting nudged down the straights, where on here just the slightest touch or slightest touch with the curb in the wrong place and it's completely destroyed your lap or even the race.
Yeah, for sure. And look, I know you've done several championships in R Factor actually. So what's it like coming from a sim like R Factor to Assetto Corsa? Because I understand that potentially the way that the cars drive is quite different, and the feel through the wheel and things like that. So how hard is it to sort of make that transition, especially into F4 cars, which are very much open wheel, right? So there is no door banging like you alluded to, and it's very much wheel to wheel racing.
Yeah, it is a complete change. Like I said, look, with touring cars, you can lean on each other through corners. Like there's some bits like going down Brands Hatch, coming off the pit straight onto the first corner. You can go three wide and you're all leaning on each other. Where here, you have to make sure if you're going to go for the pass, you have to be 100% committed. You can make that pass without making any sort of contact, and it is a massive change, especially with the tyre physics over an R Factor. On R Factor, pretty much as soon as you get off, obviously being front wheel drive, you have heat in the tyres very quickly, and the tyre degradation is not as dramatic as what it is on here. But where on Assetto Corsa, it's completely different handling physics, completely different mechanics, and it is a really hard change to get used to. But like I said, it's my first time ever, and I'm just happy just to finish the race and hopefully not impede anyone else.
Well, hopefully you have an absolutely awesome race session, and hopefully we'll see you at the top. Just while we got a little bit of time left, tell us a little bit more about Nerd PC as well, because it'd be great to hear about that.
Yeah, so Nerd PC is a PC building company that are based in the UK. Started off doing just builds for friends and stuff like this, and then it started to grow really, really well over on Facebook. So I do all like the reviews for Nerd PC, where Nerd PC they build the most bespoke and unique PCs known to anyone. They have one of the highest rated reviews on Google, one of the highest rated on Facebook. We build every single PC completely unique to whatever spec that you desire. It could be as cheap as 500-600 quid, which is a decent like eSports entry level PC, and go all the way up to £4,000, £5,000 on complete custom PCs.
Absolutely awesome. Oh well, it was great to hear that. I appreciate that, Jordan. Look, best of luck. Look, we've seen glimpses of pure pace from yourself, and look, we know that you're a race winner in multiple championships that you've competed in, especially in R Factor and things like that. So hopefully the setup comes to you and you can have a cracking race.
Thank you ever so much. I appreciate it. Thanks, Sam.
Have a good one. Speak soon. There we go then, Jordan Osborne as our guest driver to join the qualifying interviews with us. Thomas, this is shaping up to be an incredibly good race. Johnny Ogden on pole, Carl Felvis in second, and Giuliano Giarco in third. What could be better?
I know we've got three absolutely rapid people at the front. Well, when I say three, I think it's the whole top 10. Everyone is super close, and I'm really looking forward to this race. I think it's going to be a mega one to watch and commentate on. Obviously, Jonathan with one of the least amount of ballast in the top 10. You would have to say he's gonna be the one that they're gonna vote for the win. But I really don't know. Kyle with his experience from the championship, obviously championship leader, he's going to be looking to keep his nose clean, as well as bring home a good result. And then Giuliano showed some mega pace as well at Red Bull Ring and prior rounds of that as well. So yeah, it's going to be a mega race for 20 minutes. I think it's going to be non-stop action.
Yeah, definitely. And, they've got a minute to go until the race starts. Johnny Ogden on pole here. We just spoke about this before, where potentially pole's not the best place to start, especially with Carl Felvis behind you. I think Johnny Ogden's going to be a little bit wary of how he gets that run through T1. And if he can get a good run through Arouge and down the straight, especially with a toe as good as it is, and potentially with a setup that Carl's running, I think the only thing that Johnny's got in his favour is potentially the ballast that Carl's running. But that doesn't mean to say that the rest of the pack aren't going to suddenly toe off one another and get the double toe and potentially maybe go 2 or 3 into the end of the straight and into the next corner. So it's all to play for here. I mean, look, we've got plenty of people in the YouTube chat. It'd be great to see who your money's on for this race. And do you know what, Thomas? I'm going to let you kick-start this race off, and let's see how this one goes.
Well, certainly. Thank you for the honours. I think it's... Yeah, I really can't wait for this. There's 45 seconds left until the lights come on. But I think it's going to be an interesting race. Nicky Taylor's going to be looking to have a good start as well, obviously, to help Kyle out at the front. And Jonathan here, unfortunately, his teammates haven't really been able to get the qualifying that they needed. Adam down in P17. So really not ideal for Jonathan, as he potentially could be a bit hung out to dry. But with his experience in the real racing, he's definitely going to be fighting for that, that P1.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. As we wait for the lights to come on, and it is all yours, Mr. Merritt. Take it away.
Here we go. So we have 1 light, 2 light, 3 light, 4 light, 5 light, and finally the 6th light comes on, and the lights are eventually out after a very long wait. Jonathan Ogden with a really good launch there. Kyle coming up with Giuliano also having a good start. Kyle middle of the road defending from behind. Giuliano's going to look to the outside. Jonathan's in deep. They've all got the cutback on him. Kyle Felvis now has the lead. I say the lead with that ballast now coming in. Jonathan's got the exit that he needed, and it's going to be side by side into Arouge. This is going to be really interesting to watch. The pack behind seems to have had a pretty good start. One person potentially getting a little slow run out the hairpin with some contact there, but Kyle now slots in behind Giuliano and Andrea Rugi there. Oh, Andrea has spun out of the circuit. Oh, there's a big shunt in the background. 2 cars have gone off the circuit as we see Carl Felvis now going for the lead.
Yeah, and look, we spoke about this, didn't we? That, potentially P1 isn't going to be the place to start from, as Carl Felvis now round the outside, and he's managed to get the speed and the overrun, and Johnny Ogden has managed to clear him going through the chicanes here. So, look, this is exactly what we were potentially warning about. for Johnny Ogden. He just didn't get that run, and you know, Kyle with that ballast still managed to get the better run through a Rouge. Can he hold on to it now though? That is the question. Is his tyres going to hold on long enough? You know, Johnny Ogden has got the pace, and we can see that, and he's a couple of tenths quicker, especially in terms of qualifying pace. But you know, qualifying pace doesn't determine your race trim, and this is what's going to be the difference between, you know, those that succeed and those that fail. So it'd be interesting to see where we go from here.
100%. I think the smart thing to do with the top 5, just ever so slightly breaking away, is working together. We did see some bump drafting, but I don't think that's going to work around here. That is a bit too high risk. But if Jonathan can just slot in behind Kyle, wait for, you know, 16 minutes, and then kickstart the fight, you're not going to have the pressure from behind. So we see Thomas Potter with a really good start, actually, up to I think that's 6th position there. And Jonathan now, it'll be really interesting to see where the toe comes into play with Kyle with that ballast. We will now wait and see how much of a play it is. We see Jonathan gaining, and there's a potential move at Blanchimont, although I don't think that would be a very good idea. But hey, we're all racers out here. We want to go for those audacious moves.
Let's face it, Johnny knows what he's doing. He's backed off just a little bit behind Kyle. He knows what's going on here, but he's now got the overspeed, and it just shows the difference in the ballast as he dives up the inside into the last corner here and makes it look easy. And this is something that Kyle's going to have to factor in throughout this race. Is just with that ballast, he's not going to have the top end that he was expecting. And Johnny Ogden now absolutely clears Kyle, but again, we're going to have the same issue again as he comes through this first corner. Kyle's going to get a really strong toe through a Rouge and down the straight, and we could see another change for the leader.
Yeah, 100%. And Giuliano in P3 with the double toe, without much ballast. He's only got 15 kg as opposed to Kyle's 30. That could also come into play here. Although he has got quite a gap back, so I think there potentially is a move coming for first here, as well as fourth. Actually, there's a 3-way fight for fourth. That is including Cristiano Bettini, Nicky Taylor and Thomas Potter, but I'm going to have to cut back to the race lead as Kyle now goes for the move on the outside, and he's already passed before the chicane, but I don't think Jonathan's going to give it up that easy. He's back on the inside, but he eventually backs out of it as they are 3 wide in the background.
I have a funny feeling this race is going to be full of overtakes, and especially down that back straight. You know, you can overtake through there, but then it's incredibly difficult for Kyle to be able to fend off Johnny through these, you know, tight right-handers and tight left-handers and through these corners around here. You know, the ballast is seriously going to hurt, and it looks like it's already starting to hurt already, and we're only a couple of laps in. So, you know, 16 minutes left of this race, and he's trying to hold him off, but, you know, is it going to pay off? This is the thing. Can Kyle hold on to them tyres with that ballast that he's got? Or is Johnny going to think, you know what? I know that I've got the pace. I know that I can do him through the corners. Do I just sit behind him? We push together, build up a bit of a gap, and then I send him on the last lap. That could be potentially what he goes for. You know, they've got a second gap now to Giuliano Giarco behind, and it doesn't look like he's catching. They're actually extending that gap out now. So, you know, Johnny being the racing driver that he is, does he just sit on the back of Kyle? Or does he send it? I mean, the problem is he's going to have the overspeed, especially down the straight, with the ballast that Kyle's got. And is he going to go for the move, or is he potentially, yeah, he could even try and bump draft him and push him along? We're about to find out, I suppose.
Yeah, 100%. The other thing Johnny Ogden is going to have to be sort of aware here is these F4 cars, they're very high on aerodynamics. You're going to get dirty air and aero wash from them, which is going to cause more scrub for the tyres, which could then cost you in the latter part of the race as your tyres go off, as he goes for the move again and secures that P1. But I think Kyle's going to come straight back at him on the back straight. It's almost a bit of a cat and mouse situation here. As in the background, no one swapped positions, but they are closing on Giuliano Giarco, just working together as they're now side by side into hairpin 1.
Quite interesting to see how close all these drivers are. Like, you know, the previous races that we've been at, everyone started to, you know, break out into their little groups and whatnot, but it seems like everyone seems very close to one another. I mean, if I was Johnny Ogden right now, I potentially wouldn't send a move into the last corner. I'd wait, stick behind Kyle, tuck in until the first corner, and then do him down the straight. That the pace that he's got through the corners, you would think that he would sort of hang it out and wait, and then be able to pull away through the remainder of the second and the third sector, and then potentially break enough of a gap to get away from Kyle, as Kyle goes straight past him again. This is going to be a cat and mouse game, but what they've got to be very careful of is that their battling doesn't affect their times, because we know in these cars that, you know, battling between one another, they start to drag themselves back, and then before you know it, third, fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh are all on your tail, and it becomes a 7-way battle for the lead.
Yeah, 100%. As we look back from the top three, Cristiano Bertini, Nicky Taylor, Thomas Potter, and they've also dragged Lorenzo Sentra in here, are having an absolutely massive scrap in the background. And that's going to be one to keep an eye on for the next 30 minutes, as I don't think there's going to be a breakaway in that either. So they're constantly going to be fighting out for all the positions they can. But yeah, Johnny here, if it was me as well, I would wait behind, wait for that back straight, and then try and push on through these next set of corners. But he wants to go for it, and he wants to try and build that gap, but it's just not quite working at the moment.
I suppose it's very easy for us to say that, you know, commentating from afar and watching from an overhead view. I think from a driver's perspective, it's one of those ones where it's like, oh, I want to win and I want to get in front, but there is an element of strategy that goes into this, I suppose, as well. As you know, John Ogden only 3/10 off. Thomas Potter, actually interestingly, given a little bit of a bump through one of the corners just to push his way through. Nothing too crazy, it wasn't anything untoward, but as you see here, the toe is worth so much around this track, and you can get such a good run as he dives up the inside now of Mr. Bettini here, and he's going to get the move done, and easily too, and a little bit of a lock-up, but he's made it stick as Bettini's making it hard for him, and he goes wide through the DRS board. Luckily, he doesn't absolutely fry it, but, you know, this is going to be something we look at as Carl Felvers is dropping down the order. What's going on here?
It's actually not, it was both of them. They came together in the final chicane and both spun out. Jonathan Ogden went for the dive and there was a bit of contact and they both spun, and now they're side by side, so they're going to have to work really hard to get themselves back up to that top spot. But yeah, a little bit almost silly with 12.5 minutes to go. But hey, again, it's very easy for us to say with these single-seaters, you know, a slight miscalculation and it's over. As we see them go side by side up the hill. That is brave from Jonathan Ogden there.
I was going to say, that's an audacious move there from Johnny Ogden, as Kyle says thank you very much and dives straight through the middle. That just goes to show he had the car in the perfect position at the right time, saw that they were under speed and battling with one another, and dives straight down the middle and takes the two positions away from them. This might be the opportunity that Kyle needs now to push his way back up to the front. And realistically, he's got the pace. He can make it happen. It's just whether he can hold on to that ballast and make the tyres work.
Yeah, 100%. Giuliano Giacco there with a 3-second gap, followed by Nicky Taylor, so the gap is there. As we see Jonathan Ogden go for the move, he is not hanging about. He's a little bit angry with that last lap incident, as we see him go on Jacob Gannon, I believe that is, or Alex Forster, sorry. But he hasn't quite made it work, and he's just costing himself time to Kyle now, as he's going to pull up back alongside, going into Pouon, sorry. But again, hasn't quite made it work.
It's a strange one, isn't it? At the end of the day, there's always going to be racing incidents, but realistically, has Kyle and Johnny just thrown that away from themselves? I mean, they could have worked together there and, you know, extended a gap like we spoke about and, you know, battled towards the end, but now they're fighting for 6th and 8th position with Giuliano Giacco now leading out on a country drive in first place with a 3-second gap. Realistically, if he can keep the pace going, I mean, he is doing 2:22, so he's probably about half a second off the pace from everyone else, but he's in clean air, so that's going to benefit him and benefit his tyres. Is Nicky going to be able to take the charge to him and close that gap?
100%, but Nicky can't quite break away from the likes of Thomas Potter and Cristiano Bettini, as we see an absolutely awesome move by Jonathan Ogden round the outside at Blanchimont there. The room was given by Alex Forster, so some great sort of respect for each other on the circuit there. But he has made his way back past, and now he's going to be hunting down his rival, if you will, Kyle. But the gap is extended by a 10th, interestingly, last lap, from Giuliano Giacco to Nicky Taylor. So currently, it's looking good, but I don't want to jinx anything, and I think we're in for quite a battle behind.
Do you ever get the feeling that Johnny Ogden's got the grip between his teeth now?
I think he might.
Yeah, it's Giuliano Giacco now 3.4 seconds ahead of Nicky Taylor in 2nd place, and to be honest, Nicky's not got an answer for him. It's Cristiano Bettini 4.7 seconds off the lead. They're now starting to break out into the little groups, as we sort of alluded to earlier at the start of the race. 9 minutes 40 left to go. Is Johnny and Kyle going to be able to push their way back up the field? Have they got the pace to do so? Johnny Ogden with a 2:24 on the last lap. It'd be interesting to see what we can do this time round. Again, 2:24 for Kyle, so let's have a look and see what their times look like at the end of this. But they're in the dirt, yeah, they're in the wash of other cars now. You know, has Kyle seen the best of his tyres? You know, is he going to be able to push on? Is he going to get pushed on by Johnny Ogden, who's going to be chasing him down with a lot less ballast? Yeah, it's all to play for.
Yeah, 100%. But the gaps have actually increased between Kyle and Johnny there, and the likes of Jacob Gannon as well behind. Nicky Taylor is pushing on now. He is broken away from Cristiano Bettini and Thomas Potter and the group behind. So he is on a charge to try and hunt down Giuliano. But I just don't know. Is there enough time with 8.5 minutes left? It's going to be really interesting to see as well how the final sort of podium positions play out, and if the likes of Kyle and Jonathan can get themselves back up there. Johnny is a little way behind, but it has to be said the gap is closing. But you never know.
It makes you wonder with that spin that they had, maybe they've done something to those tyres, maybe they've cooked them a little bit, and now they're just in that point of managing the tyre degradation and, you know, just letting him cool down a bit before he makes that push again. But 7 seconds off the lead for Johnny Ogden. It's not looking great for him, is it, with 8 minutes left to go? And, you know, he is tucking up on the back of Carl as he gets it very squirrely out the last corner. Just with that elevation change on that left-hander, you know, you see a lot of the cars getting it sideways. But, again, I just don't know if there's enough there for him to be able to, you know, not only just tuck back on the back of Kyle, but to push his way up to the front. You know, have they thrown this away? And some valuable points at the front of the championship here, especially for Kyle. I mean, we didn't get to see who collided with who, or if it was a bit of a racing incident. But yeah, this could be the end of their race one.
100%. As we see last lap, interestingly, Thomas Potter sent a purple middle sector. He is on a charge for that final podium position, potentially trying to claw back some lost points after Red Bull Ring. But he has got Lorenzo Sentra all over him here. And he's not going to let him have it easy, as Kyle was now on the back with some big slides in the background, and it has to be said, Jonathan is not able to close that gap. So yeah, potentially some drivers on the struggle bus here.
Which is strange, right? Because you'd think without the ballast that Johnny's got, he should be closing up to Kyle pretty quickly. But again, might be managing the tyres, might be thinking better of it, maybe hoping that the guys in front will decide to battle one another and then he can make his move. But, you know, strategy-wise, after that collision between the two of them, is he thinking about strategy, or is he really just managing the car and, you know, potentially just doesn't have the race pace like he did the quali pace? I think that could be the biggest one. And look, it's one to say for Thomas Potter up in 4th place. It's a great drive from him. And look, this is the thing with Thomas. He's got great pace. He can set purple times. He can go quickest of anyone. I think for him the biggest thing is going to be the consistency, and if he can make that happen in the race and, you know, drive that mature drive like he did in round 2. Sorry, at round 3. Was it round 3 at Interlagos? Sorry, no, it was round 2 actually. And put himself in that position that he deserved to be in, because look, he put in over 170 laps of practice over the course of the last week, and, you know, it's starting to show. Like, those that are putting the practice in have clearly done race runs and have got themselves in a position where they know this track through and through. And, you know, that's starting to come to now as he starts to close up onto the back of Bettini. Let's see what he does across the line here and just see what his times are sitting at. 22.1 compared to Bettini's 22.4, sorry. So about, you know, 0.3 quicker. So he is closing.
Yeah, 100%. And Giuliano is increasing the gap at the front. The gap is up to 3.9 seconds over Nicky Taylor. And it has to be said, the gap between Nicky Taylor and Cristiano is coming down now. And Jonathan Ogden's still there and thereabouts, not gaining, not losing, just sort of staying neutral. But the interesting one is Lorenzo Sentra over the back of Thomas Potter. He's got the run up Eau Rouge, and now he's side by side. And he's almost got the overlap to even get the move done before the chicane, and he has. So an interesting swap there. I'm not quite sure if Thomas had a bad run or whatnot, but yeah, that's gonna cost them, especially if they start battling. That's going to allow the likes of Nicky Taylor and Cristiano Bettini to gap them as there's contact, and Lorenzo is sent round in a spin. So really not what Thomas needed there, or Lorenzo, but you know, they carry on, and no harm is really lost between the two of them.
No, and you see, you know, Jacob Gannon here fighting away with Lorenzo Sentra, and Alexander Link not too far behind, a couple of seconds behind, but with these two battling the way that they are, it's an opportunity for him to pick it up. One person we haven't mentioned is Adam Lyle, who, you know, was last week's race 2 winner by about 4 seconds, down in P14. He had the pace in the official practice, but has not managed to convert it. And 4 seconds off of Jordan Osborne now in P13. So maybe just struggling with his race pace. Did he manage to do some race runs? You know, was it all about quali laps for him? But we're starting to see everyone start to, you know, spread out now and get into the little grooves. There's lots of understeer coming through his car, so maybe wondering whether his setup's on point or not, but definitely struggling.
I'm not sure if Kyle has made a mistake or if that ballast and the tyres are starting to go off, but Jonathan Ogden now is on the back, so are we going to see a round 2 sort of sparring match here between the two of them? Jonathan's going to be looking to pick up the pieces off the contact, but so is Kyle as well. He's not going to want to give it up, so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out for the last 3 laps of the race.
Definitely, as we see them two now coming into the last corner. This is touch and go between them two. Obviously, they've already had a bit of a coming together already at the start of this race. You know, potentially will that happen again? As you know, tensions are high. They're both pushing on as much as they can. Carl's potentially struggling with his tyres. It's still all to play for with 3 minutes 10 left to go. But you've got to say, Giuliano Giarco is potentially the race winner here. He's gapping Nicky Taylor 4.2 seconds ahead now with 3 minutes left. You got to say, unless he makes a mistake, it's all his.
Yeah, 100%. Don't want to jinx it. There's still 3 laps left. Still room for error, but yeah, if he keeps going the way he is, it's looking good. Jonathan Ogden and Carl Felvers now P5 and 6 after the spin last lap. And then the top 4 have really sort of started to spread out. Cristiano, though, is not off the back really of Nicky Taylor, and there's potentially a move coming. Jonathan Ogden just sat in the toe here of Kyle Felvers, potentially a move coming at the end of the lap if he can get close enough. But yeah, potentially just saving the tyres in the car and not really wanting any more incidents from this race.
Yeah, as we see Jordan Gannon now into the pits, and obviously had an issue there and has walked back, so maybe an issue with his car or maybe had a slight crash there, as we still see Johnny Ogden and Kyle Felvers going side by side. And I'm looking at the live chat here. Julie Bradshaw, come on Nicky, mate, to get a HFT 1-2. I'm sure they were trying to, but I just don't think Carl is quick enough. Detailed Car Care, stop talking about the same people, comms. Well, all I can say to that is we are talking about the drivers that are closest and are having great battles. So, look, it is what it is. We've got to bring the attention to the drivers that are having the closest battles on track. So, can't help you there, sunshine. Anyway, as we go back to Carl Felvers and Johnny Ogden, 4/10 apart now. And Carl still holding on, and look, we've got to give him credit. He is pulling up on the back of Thomas Potter. You've got to admit, you know, there is a couple of seconds between them. Carl's last lap at 23.5, and Thomas Potter's 23 dead, so 5/10 off. But I would say he's catching, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would have to say he is. There's potentially a dive bomb from Jonathan Ogden into the bus stop here, potentially a little bit too far back. But stranger things have happened as he is going to go for the dive bomb. Nothing comes of it, but Kyle is in a little deep and he's potentially going to go for the cutback here with a bad run from Kyle, which he is potentially a move coming into the first hairpin here.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is what it is. I think Johnny Ogden needs to be incredibly careful here because look, he's got the opportunity to send these dive bombs, but you know, in these cars it's very easy to lock up and put himself in a position where he may not be in control of the car coming into the corner. We know that these cars are front bias heavy, and depending on how he's got the car set up, it could be a tough one for him, as he's now lost quite a bit of time to cars, so he's going to have to think about this one again. 24 seconds left of this race, plus 1 lap, so unless Johnny pulls out something crazy, and look, he's got the toe now and he's chasing after Carl, Carl might have held on to this, and at the end of the day, it might not be a win, but it's some valuable points for him for the championship.
Yeah, 100%. Every point counts now, as we're this far into the championship, as there is going to be plus 1 lap in this race, so it is not over yet. We Cristiano Bettini with a personal best sector 1, and the other interesting thing I picked up on last lap was Alexander Link with a purple middle sector. Obviously it's a bit too late for him to go for anything special, but you know, the pace of these drivers down the grid is so close. Anyone is going for those quick lap times and the extra points. As Christian Bettini is putting huge amounts of pressure on Nicky Taylor.
I was just going to say.
Go on.
Go on. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was going to say these two are getting incredibly close as they come up to the last lap of this. You know, Bettini's crept right up to the back of Nicky Taylor now, so you know the opportunity's here, and I wonder if Nicky's struggling just a little bit on those tyres.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's going to come down to who managed the tyres the best. Johnny Ogden's dropped off now a bit from Carl Felvis, and Kyle has picked up the pace and is now closing on the back of Thomas Potter, so potentially a last lap change for P4 and a last lap change for P2 as well, with Cristiano Bettini putting huge amounts of pressure.
Yeah, they're incredibly close, but one person that isn't incredibly close to anyone is Giuliano Giarco, as he comes into the last corner now with a 4.2 second gap to Nicky Taylor and Cristiano Bettini, and just make it look easy. All he's got to do is coast it round. Doesn't need to make any mistakes, just needs to take it easy. As he comes onto the last lap now, I don't want to jinx myself because I got this wrong last time. This is definitely the last. It is the last lap. It is plus 1 lap. So 1 more lap for Giuliano Giarco. But you've got to say, unless he makes a big mistake here, he's got this one in the bag.
Yeah, 100%. He just needs to keep it laser focused now for another 2.5 minutes, and he will have another win under his belt. Kyle now in the tow of Thomas Potter, and the ballast between them two is very similar. So there is a potential move coming here, as we see him closing up Eau Rouge and a Rallion. He's getting ever closer. He's bounced a little bit too much off that curb, but he is gaining up to the chicane. Thomas Potter's going to have the inside. Kyle's going to pull up to the outside, and now it's going to be a drag race between them, as in front of them as well, Nicky Taylor and Cristiano Bettini are side by side. Cristiano's going to send it around the outside, and Kyle has got the move done on Thomas Potter, and Cristiano did make it stick, but Nicky Taylor now coming back at him, on the inside. They're going to be side by side. Great respect given between the two of them there, and this could potentially allow Kyle and Thomas to close up on them for a last corner attempt. Cristiano's still going to try, but it's to no avail.
I was just going to say, it's almost like everyone left it to the last lap to send one another, as Nicky Taylor and Cristiano Bettini now absolutely hammer and tong, and the same again as Thomas Potter and Carl Felvis. What we did just see there, right in the background, if any of the eagle-eyed viewers here saw this, Thomas Potter absolutely broad sideways after straight after a Rouge there into the right-hander, managed to keep it going, and is still on the back of Kyle. So Kyle's clearly struggling with the tyres, doing an incredible job in fourth, but this is still all to play for. Yes, Giuliano's out in first place and doing his bit, but the second, third, and fourth and fifth could be decided by anyone here.
Yeah, 100%. Cristiano back in the tow now for one last attempt for P2 over Nicky Taylor. Nicky Taylor's driven a great defence so far, but it is not over, as the likes of Thomas Potter and Johnny Ogden are now in the tow of Carl Felvis, and with that ballast, it must be said there is a potential move, or a potential few dive bombs actually, coming into the final bus stop chicane. Is Cristiano close enough? We will find out very shortly.
Well, we have got to dive through to Giuliano Giarco though, as he comes through the last corner and takes the win for race 1 here at round 4 of Spa-Francorchamps, and does it in style too, as Nicky Taylor manages to hold on to P2 by the looks of things and takes P2, and Cristiano Bettini P3, and Thomas Potter and Carl Felvis P4 and P5, with Johnny Ogden right up on the back of him on the last lap. That's a real shame for him, especially based on where they were, but an absolutely cracking battle towards the end. Just goes to show that potentially people were conserving their tyres and let it all loose on the last lap.
Yeah, 100%. That was a great battle. A great few last corners from some very well-respected drivers there, and great respect shown between the two of them. But it must be said that was a great race, and we've got even more action coming up very shortly.
It's going to be an exciting one. I honestly did not know where to look there. That last lap was absolute mayhem. But yeah, fair play to the drivers. They've clearly nailed down the cars, and what a battle on a show they put on. So they're going to drive round now to the pits and get themselves ready for race 2. And in the meantime, we are going to go to an ad break from our sponsor.
What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Nerd PC Turbo Tech Reviews. Now today is something a little bit different. Normally we do just reviews on a single item, but today we're going to be showing you guys what you can expect from Nerd PC. Nerd PC is a bespoke building company where you can get absolutely any sort of style of gaming PC, office work PC, retail, or even for school work. This PC here demonstrates how small they can be, but yet still pack an absolute powerful punch. So from such a small computer like this, you may be worrying about heat, but these fans inside of here keep it absolutely ice cold as well as quiet. Now listen to this. Nice and quiet. Beautiful. Now we build completely different style of computers. Like I said, from this little one up here, it's all down to you. You get to decide on which case you want to use. You get to decide if you want it all flashy and RGB. You get to decide whether you want it completely plain and black. Remember, we did the hard part of figuring out which components work best for you for your value for money, but you get to decide on how it looks. But if you're after something that's in your face, some bright and powerful as this, so this build here is in a Gigabyte C102 glass Arctic ice case with 320mm cooler master fans at the front, 360mm all-in-one cooler at the top. This full white ice build does look insane, and I can assure you, you will not be disappointed. So if you're on the market for a brand new shining gaming computer, or if you want a computer for home use, retail, or office work, it's completely down to you. We just make it happen. So if you haven't done already, go and head over to the website at www.nerdpc.co.uk, have a browse through, see what's on there, or drop us a message directly on Facebook, and we'll do our absolute best to make it happen for you. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. And if you are new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you did enjoy this video, hit the like for me, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye! What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Nerd PC Turbo Tip Reviews. But today is something a little bit different. Normally we do just reviews.
Champs for round 4 of the Phoenix Sim Racing F4 World Championship. I'm going to be first joined here by Cristiano Bettini. Cristiano, that was a mega race to, you know, be battling Nicky Taylor right towards the end there, and putting him under huge amounts of pressure. Obviously it was to no avail, but even so it was still a mega race from you. How was it from your perspective?
Ok Cristiano, hai fatto una grandissima gara, hai tanta pressione su quello davanti, com'è stata dalla tua prospettiva?
Tante lotte, mi sono divertito tantissimo, ho perso un po' di tempo con Thomas credo all'inizio, perché altrimenti sarei potuto stare più attaccato a Taylor e magari riuscire a rubargli la seconda posizione, però comunque mi sono divertito tantissimo e il livello è molto alto.
Okay, so very tough race, but was very funny. Lost a little bit of time at the beginning of the race, but still a very funny race from my perspective.
Brilliant. And we've heard from quite a lot of the drivers this evening that the tyres go off very quickly, and they're hard to manage. Was that an issue for you, or were you quite okay with the tyres towards the end of the race?
Alcuni hanno avuto problemi con le gomme, come è stata per te?
Giusto gli ultimi 2 giri erano molto pericolosi e bisognava essere delicati con qualsiasi manovra, anche nelle lotte era molto pericoloso perché scivolava ovunque.
Just the 2 laps before the finish, it was very difficult to keep the car because it was very slippery with the tires, and but he still managed to keep the car and finish the race.
Brilliant. And the final question I want to ask, is there anyone you'd like to shout out whilst you're on stream?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Is there anyone you'd like to thank or shout out on the stream?
Ok, vuoi ringraziare qualcuno, Cristiano?
A tutti i partecipanti e gli organizzatori che ci hanno permesso di divertirci così tanto.
To everybody that organized the race, it was very funny and we want to thank you everybody.
Brilliant, thank you, and good luck for race 2.
Awesome, there we have it then. And we move on to our second place driver, Nicky Taylor. Nicky. Look, it feels weird not racing you in a sim championship, but talk us through that race. How was it for you?
Scary, and finally on the podium, which is, it's been a long time coming after Red Bull Ring with being one of the faster ones, and then just getting every bit of bad luck come my way just weren't really ideal. But yeah, the thing I had with my quali setup was brilliant until I got into a race, and yeah, it ended up in me getting bump drafted in an F4 car down the Kemmel Straight, which ain't really ideal.
Do you know what, we spoke about this beforehand on the stream, and we spoke about how you'd adapted your setup to suddenly find some insane quali pace, and then all of a sudden in the race it seemed to dip off a little bit, and it looked like you were fighting for your life at one point. You know, what changes did you make? Obviously you don't want to go through your setup to anyone that's potentially watching the stream, but it was a hard fought battle for P2.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I don't think I'm giving too much away by it being blindingly obvious to every other driver. I was on short gear ratios for race 1, and yeah, let's just say for quali they were brilliant, because it was topping out by myself just as I got to the end of the straight. But yeah, obviously in race trim, with the toe and everything, they weren't really the ones. So yeah, I think we'll be going back to long gear ratios for race 2, and hopefully I might be able to keep up with people in a straight line.
So thinking about it now, obviously you're no stranger to a reverse grid race. You know what they're all about, especially in terms of previous championships. What is your aim for this race?
Hopefully, if we don't get unlucky like we have at Sao Paulo and Austria, go for the win. But I'm not holding out too much hope, considering I'm not the best in rear-wheel drive, and I cannot save this car for the life of me if it starts going. So we'll see how we go. I'd be happy with a top 8, I think.
Awesome stuff. Well, I appreciate it, Nicky. Is there anyone that you want to shout out on the stream?
Just my mum, dad, really, and everyone who puts on the Phoenix Sim Racing. It's been really, really nice to come into and really nice to race with.
Awesome stuff. Well, congratulations, Nicky, and hopefully, with a bit of luck, if you can make your way through the pack, we'll be speaking to you in race 2.
Hopefully so.
See you soon.
And finally, I am joined by your race 1 winner, Giuliano Giarco. He has a habit of winning race 1s here in the Phoenix Sim Racing F4 World Championship. Giuliano, how was that race for yourself?
Ti chiedi come è andata la gara, come l'hai vista?
Allora, la gara è andata molto bene e diciamo che ho avuto un passo di amministrazione perché sapevo che i due davanti prima o poi si toccavano e dopo è stato tutto in discesa. Digli così, vai.
The race was good from the start, and the feeling with the car was really nice. And he see the first 2 drivers in front of him and was just taking a quiet zone. And later after that he passed these 2 drivers and he's make a really good race in with just one thing in the mind to win.
Brilliant. And obviously a lot of the drivers have been complaining of you know, the tyres going off very quickly here at Spa. Seems to be eating quite a lot of people's tyres. How was it on your end? Were you managing the tyres quite well after you had that nice gap, or was it still a bit of a struggle?
E con le gomme come ti sei trovato durante la gara e a fine gara?
Solo gli ultimi 2 giri, dopo ho detto amministrato, non avevo problemi di gomme.
He don't make any problem with the tires because he administrate so much the race. Just in the last 2 laps he have a little problem, but was okay.
Brilliant. And the final question I want to ask before we head to race 2. Obviously it's a reverse grid now. What are your thoughts going into this one? Are you looking for another podium or race win, or are you looking to just bank the points and stay out of trouble?
E pensi di provare a vincerla o arrivare al podio di nuovo, oppure di amministrare e portarti a casa qualche
Amministrare e portare i punti a casa.
We try to take more points we can. The podium it's okay, but he will administrate the race and he tries to take more points he can.
Brilliant. Well, good luck for race 2, and hopefully we'll be speaking to you shortly.
Thank you so much. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Well, a big congratulations there to Giuliano and Giaco, who takes another win in the Phoenix Sim Racing F4 World Championship Series here, as we now move on to our reverse grid race, which is always set to entertain, shall we say, with Olivia Krzyżanowska on pole with Adam Lyle P2, so teammates rounding out the front grid. This might be a really good opportunity for them to bank some valuable points that they need, and potentially Adam Lyle to, you know, get that race win again in race 2.
Certainly. Well, if he's got any chance, this is going to be his best this evening. I'll let you count this one in, as I did the first race, but I think we're in for a bit of a treat here.
We are indeed. It's Vince Chan in P3, Catherine Potter P4, and Andrea Ryugi in P5. This is anyone's to play for. I mean, we see these reverse grid races, and hopefully they make it through turn 1, all in shipshape and Bristol fashion, but you never know how it's going to be. We've got a lot of faster drivers down the pack, and are they going to be able to make their way through? Again, it's not always the greatest thing to be on the sort of first place slot on the grid, especially with that long run down to T3. You know, it could be anyone's game again. Is Adam going to tuck in behind him as the lighting gantry now comes on, and we'll wait for the lights to go out. As we got 1 light, 2 light, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and we are go here at the second race of Spa. Lever gets a good getaway here, tucking along the inside. Adam Lyle going around the outside. Is he going to be able to make it through? Olivia breaks incredibly early, and that gives the position to Adam, and she falls back down the grid. So not the greatest of starts for Olivia, but just taking it nice and easy as every car manages to get it through the first corner nice and easy. And look, no more commentators' curses on this. It's much better than the last couple of rounds. But Adam Lyle here out in front. It's now everyone's going to play for here as we look down the order. Olivia Krzyżanowska in P4, Catherine Potter P3. You know, are we going to see any changes for the lead here? As we see a big off in the background.
Indeed, yeah. Nikki Taylor went off at Eau Rouge as there's absolute carnage on the Camel Straight here. People flying off into the barriers left, right and centre. Lots of dust being kicked off. That is a shame for some championship contenders and some mega pace in race 1 there, being knocked out of the running really quickly. Nikki Taylor having a big shunt into the wall at Eau Rouge, like I mentioned earlier, and I think that's Josh Martin as well being involved, as there's more spinners on the exit of the chicane here. I think that is a WRT driver, and is that Kyle Felbus? It is Kyle Felbus into the wall. Yeah, so it's all kicked off for the beginning of this race 2 reverse grid here at Spa.
Yeah, it's absolutely horrific for him. And is he going to be able to get that car going again? Is he going to be able to make up any place? It looks like he's stranded there. And that might be the end of the race for Carl Felbus as he's stuck in the wall. That's a shame for him. I wonder if he managed to drop that by himself or, you know, whether someone else was involved in it. We'll have to wait and see for that one. But as it stands now, Adam Lyle out 1.4 seconds in front from Vince Chan, and Olivia Krzyżanowska has overtaken Catherine Potter for P3. And Catherine Potter falling down the order now, but you know, we said this before, these reverse grid races, it's all to play for. It can chop and change at any point.
Indeed, yeah, a big sort of action at the beginning of that race. Adam Lyle has got a nice gap like he did at Red Bull Ring. He's just had that nice start, that nice getaway, stayed out of trouble, and all he needs to do now is just bang in those nice, fast, consistent, clean laps. Like you mentioned, Catherine Potter still in the mix, along with Olivia, but a little bit of a slower start there. But we look further down the grid to sort of your quicker drivers in qualifying, the pace that they showed. Jonathan Ogden with a good start, as there's carnage at the final chicane as well, as he has to skip the chicane there. I think that was potentially Cristiano Bettini there, who was spun off the road as Thomas Potter now gets the run, along with a few other drivers. So yeah, there's lots of incidents here, and clearly Spa has kicked up the trouble in race 2.
Yeah, but keep an eye here. Johnny Ogden up to P5 from the back of the grid as he gets it sideways. Tags the back of Catherine Potter as he managed to keep the speed up. It looks like he has, as he's going to go round the outside of Catherine into a ruse. This is a recipe for disaster. They're 3 abreast potentially coming into here. Who's going to give out first? And it looks like Johnny Ogden has held his own. Catherine Potter goes sideways. Johnny Ogden holds it and collects it. Catherine Potter all over the shot, but manages to hold it, so big well done to her, but that's a lot of speed that she's lost. Thomas Potter coming around the outside now, 3 abreast coming down the straight. This is some awesome racing between them. Yeah,
100%. I'm not sure who got the run there. Yeah, that was Thomas Potter, who's now got the lead, and Jonathan Ogden has had to slot back into position after an absolutely mental save from both himself and Catherine Potter. That was unbelievable stuff. The positions that those cars were in, the way they recovered from that was brilliant. But this is not going to help, as there's obviously quite a big gap now to the group of cars in front.
Yeah, and one person look at here, Jordan Osborne, P5, ahead of Johnny Ogden. Now, we know that Johnny Ogden's got the pace, but Jordan's evaded all of that trouble at the start as he gets a little sideways through this long left-hander here, manages to collect it and keeps the pace up, but has Johnny Ogden got the pace that he needs to be able to make these moves and overtake? I mean, for him right now, he can see that Jordan's struggling a little bit and getting a little sideways. Has he cooked them tyres a bit too much in the open lap? Is he going to have to cool the tyres down a little bit and just settle in, or is Johnny Ogden going to go for some last-ditch moves? But the whole time this is going on, Adam Lyle with a 2.5 seconds gap now to Vince Chan. It's very reminiscent of last round, is it not?
Yeah, 100%, and for the likes of people like Jonathan Ogden and Thomas Potter, this is their chance in the championship to claw back vital points. Not only has Carl Velver spun and hit the wall and is out of the race, he's also DNF'd, so he's not even running. So this is their chance to claw back some much needed points with Carl with that big gap, as we see Jonathan go for a huge dive bomb into the bus stop chicane. He's got it stopped and he's made a very clean pass there. He's had a little tag on the rear end, but he's managed to save it and he's up another place.
No, I don't say this often, and some people will be very reminiscent of this term that I say, but the move was on, and Johnny Ogden licked the stamp and sent it and made it stick, and up into P5 he goes. Now is his opportunity now to chase down Thomas Potter, who's got a bit of clean air. Is he going to be able to hunt him down?
Yeah, 100%. Thomas Potter with a purple sector 3 that last lap. He is now hunting down Olivia, which must be said, last lap was a 24 dead in clear air. Hasn't quite got the pace of the leaders, but she's still doing an incredible job holding her own in P3, along with Adam Lyle. Now the gap's up to 3 seconds, and with 14 minutes to go, could we have a repeat of Red Bull Ring? We'll have to wait and see.
Oh, definitely, and look, it might not be the case that Olivia's got the pace, but if she can keep it consistent as Archie puts it wide into the gravel, keeps it held, so big well done to her, but that's now put her right in the grasp of Thomas Potter. That's going to be sat right on the back of her. He's going to dive up the inside and say thank you very much. This is my move, this is my opportunity, and this is my position to take, as he takes P3 and demotes her off of the podium. But if she can just hang on to the back of him now and tow along with him, she's got a little bit of a gap to Johnny Ogden. Johnny's not making the tracks and the moves that we thought he might do with the pace that he had in not only race 1 but qualifying. Could she hold on to P4?
Potentially, but with 13 minutes to go, Johnny is hunting her down and he's got her in her sights. But, you know, Thomas Potter starting to build that gap now, and it's not an unreasonable gap to hunt down Adam Lyle with the pace that he's shown in race 1 in qualifying. But, yeah, it must be said, so it's a real mixture of drivers and not a usual mixture we see, so it'll be interesting to see the battles that, you know, that arise.
No, I'll tell you one battle that is arising. It's the battle for P8, P9, P10 and P11 here, as Nikki Taylor, Josh Martin and Alexander Link are all going toe-to-toe for those positions. And all while they're doing this, they're falling back behind those of the top 7. So they've got to be really careful here, and either they're going to make these moves stick or they're not. But here we see Josh Martin as we go on board, getting in the toe of Nikki Taylor. Nikki's just not finding the pace and not found the movement that he needed with 12 minutes 50 left to go. As Josh makes an audacious move round the outside, and is he going to make it stick? Nikki's going to think better of this, and is he going to hug around the inside? He does. He's going to shut the door, but Josh was just too far up the inside and makes that move stick. That's now brought Alexander Link into play, and is Nikki going to lose 2 places off the back of this?
Yeah, 100%. The battle is really kicking off. But one thing we just missed there was Jonathan Ogden getting past Olivia with a purple sector 3 as well. He has gone with a 22 dead. He is one of the quickest drivers out on the circuit at the moment. He is flying, catching Thomas Potter and the likes of Vince Chan and Adam Lyle in P1 and P2. So could this be his redemption race after an unlucky race 1?
I mean, it is indeed, but you know, it just shows this reverse grid race is so topsy-turvy, as Josh Martin now coming under pressure from Nikki Taylor. We're going to see it time and time again. If you're coming through that first corner in front, you're going to be up against it, as Nikki Taylor is pushed onto the grass by Josh Martin here, and he's holding his own, holding that inside line. He's done well to defend it. Alexander Link going round the outside. Is he going to make it stink? He does indeed. And Josh Martin still up the inside now, holding his position. This is not his first rodeo. He knows how to defend his position. this is going to be a three-way battle now for P8, P9 and P10. This is going to be a tough gig for all three of them.
Indeed. The battle in the mid-pack, it has to be said, is the most action-packed one currently out there. The top sort of, 5 drivers separated out now. Giuliano Giarco's had a really good race, and then it's that battle between Nicky, Josh, and the people below that as well. So yeah, it's a great race so far. We're still 11 minutes to go. We're not even halfway through.
Here's one thing to look at though, as we go on board with Alexander Link. Look at his steering angle. His steering is about 20 degrees off to the left, so he's clearly running with damage on the car and still putting pace in it. We just need to see him on a straight here, and you'll see, and you can see from there, as the wheel's not pointing straight, so clearly running with damage on the car and still keeping up with the guys in front. So fair play to him. He's still got the pace of the front runners here. It'd be interesting to see what laps he's doing, but you can see he's fighting with that wheel a little bit, and that's going to be hurting him in terms of top end speed.
Yeah, 100%. These drivers battling through with even damage on the cars in single seaters. That is very rarely heard of. But these drivers are resilient, and the cars are resilient enough with this mod that they're doing the work, and they are putting in a fantastic effort here. Johnny Ogden closing up to the back ever so slightly of Thomas Potter, but Giuliano Giarco is one we haven't mentioned, down in P5 with a purple sector 3, but Jonathan Ogden with a purple sector 1, setting a fast lap of the race. First one into the 21s with a 21.9. It must be said that the gaps at the end of the race are going to be a lot smaller than they are currently.
They are indeed, and Giuliano Giarco 5/10 slower than Johnny Ogden on that last lap alone, so not quite finding the pace that Johnny's got, but Johnny's just not making that impression that I think he needs to, with 9 minutes 44 left to go. I mean, there's an opportunity here for him to push onto the back of Thomas Potter and go for P3, but is he going to be able to catch up to Vince Chan and Adam Lyle with a 5.7 second gap now in P1? It is very reminiscent of the last round that we were in at Red Bull Ring. Again, Adam's just got to take it nice and easy. He's got clean air. He can sort of command the pace of this race now, whilst everyone else battles it out.
Yeah, 100%. Vince Chan now, sort of the first we've seen of him this evening. It's going to have to go on the defence here because Thomas Potter and Johnny Ogden are all over the back of him, as the battle still rages on between Josh Martin and Nicky Taylor, and now Olivia as well has dropped down a little bit. So it's incredible scenes here. It's battling up and down the field, but Thomas Potter now really almost sniffing the back of Vince Chan's car here, so there could be a potential dive bomb incoming, but he's going to have to be careful not to get a penalty and just to keep his nose clean to gain those championship points back on Kyle Felvis.
Yeah, definitely. And look, we know Thomas is no stranger to making some insane moves and some crazy dive bombs and making them stick, but what I think he needs now is a very mature drive, and to drag him down here, he's going to get the overrun. But again, we might see this, potentially from Vince, where he actually tucked in behind Thomas and then, chase him down through a rouge as they go side by side through the long left-hander. Is Thomas going to go around the outside and make it stick? As he's on the marbles, he's going to have a lot less grip. He still makes it round the outside though, and he's holding on, and it's a great move from him as he dives up now in the inside onto the last corner. And that's a thank you very much. I'll take that position, Vince Chan, and move up into P2 in the race.
Yeah, now Johnny Ogden, with an amazing exit from that bus stop chicane. It's going to be on the attack now on Vince Chan. Vince Chan on potentially on for one of his best results. So he's just going to have to get his nose out of trouble and just gain back some points that he wants. Johnny Ogden now up into P3. So this is a great reverse grid for him so far. And this is just allowing Giuliano to come back into play because Vince Chan has not given up. They're going to go side by side into Eau Rouge. And it must be said, Vince he's learning a lot of experience here with racecraft, etc. And he's really getting in the mix with some quick drivers here. As now finally Johnny Ogden gets up into P3 and will be hunting down Adam and Thomas Potter.
He does, and he gives him the room, and fair play to Vince Chan for doing so. But he is in the tow of Johnny Ogden. Has he got the pace that Johnny's got? Potentially not, and he might find now that Johnny starts to pull away from him. As we have battles again all the way down the field, as so many of these cars are bunched up. Nicky Taylor now taking the position, taking the position from Josh Martin, as Josh Martin's making his car as wide as possible. He is going to hang it round the outside. He's raced many a time with Nicky Taylor in multiple championships and knows exactly where he's going to put that car and holds on to that position. Josh doing an incredible job here to hold on to P6, potentially with not as much pace as what Nicky's got. But, after what Nicky said in the race interviews, potentially was a slight setup change to to get the car into the window that he needs for the race.
Yeah, 100%. The setup changes are really crucial around here, much more than we've seen from other circuits. As now Vince Chan is going to come under pressure from Giuliano Giarco, your race one winner. He has got some mega pace. But yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, like we saw the back end of last race, it started to kick off, but this one hasn't really settled. It's just been constantly going.
It has indeed. So let's have a look at times here. So Giuliano Giarco, last lap was a 22.7. Vince Chan was a 24.9. So potentially 2 seconds difference here in terms of pace. So I think it's going to be a dead cert that Giuliano now makes the move on Vince Chan and takes that P4 away from him. Johnny Ogden with a 22.6. Thomas Potter with a 22.5. And Adam Lyle with a 23.2. So, you know, there's 5 minutes 50 left of this race. If Thomas can get a hurry on and start putting in some quick laps, he could potentially put Adam Lyle under pressure towards the back end of this race. But it's going to be a tough gig. He's going to have to be corner perfect for the last 5 minutes of this race. And, you know, as we said it before, Giuliano Giarco taking that position from Vince Chan, demotes him down to P5. Johnny Ogden in P2 with a 22.2, so he's going to be the quickest of anyone at the moment. Giuliano Giarco with a 22.3, so everyone very close on times, but you're going to have to say, has Thomas Potter got what it takes to hunt down Adam, or is he just out of time?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Adam there with his fast lap of the race on a 22.7, so not the pace that you would expect from Adam. Obviously, potentially slightly off, something maybe not gelling with him at this circuit as we saw in race 1. So the gap is coming down, but with 5 minutes left of the race, is it going to be enough? The gap was closed by about a second, so that would mean 5 laps, so potentially there's not enough time. But you never know what will happen in these races. Anything can play, as we've seen before.
Yeah, and we just look at the timing tower there, potentially an issue there, because Alexander Link is definitely not in P1, so a transponder issue on the car there potentially. But here we're starting to see Nicky Taylor now starting to rope in Josh Martin again, with Lorenzo Sentra behind him, as you see Alexander Link now fall back down through the timing tower, so back to where he actually is on track and not up in P1. So Adam Lyle is leading this race, but Nicky Taylor's got an opportunity here now, if he can, to tuck onto the back of Josh Martin. Now, you know, if Nicky's smart about this, and again, real-life racing driver here, has won the Clio Championship last year, so he's no stranger to racing battles. If he can tuck in behind Josh, you know, stick behind him, and then, you know, potentially down into T1, get the drag on him down the straight, and then try and pull away, I think that's going to be his best opportunity. But he does have the overspeed, as we see Vince Chan go wide and now down into P9 and has lost a couple of positions. I think Nicky knows exactly what he needs to do here as we go on board with him. He knows he needs to just tuck in behind him, get as close as he can, potentially bump Josh through these next couple of corners and down the straight, and then make the move out the first corner.
Yeah, I think there is a potential move coming, either at the bus stop chicane or the first corner, like you mentioned. Or he might wait and have a go after that back straight. Obviously in race 1 we saw Jonathan Ogden going for the move at the bus stop, and then it didn't work because the overspeed was then given back to Carl Felvis. So, you know, it's not over yet, and it'll be interesting to see if there's any differing opinions in the moves that they make as we see them going to the bus stop chicane. Is there going to be a move? Josh Martin defends the inside, but Nick cuts back to the inside, and he's going to have the inside and goes for the move, but now is he able to hang on to it for the next couple of straights?
And this is going to be it, and you know what? Johnny Ogden now only 2/10 off the back of Thomas Potter for P2 as they come through the first corner. This is a prime opportunity for Johnny now to tuck onto the back of Thomas Potter. He's got the drag, he's got a good exit out the first corner. Through a rouge he goes, and you know what, if he can nail this and get this literally corner perfect, which he's going to do, you can see the time he's already gained with the toe. He's going to clear Thomas before the end of this straight, and to be honest, by the start of it, by the looks of things, Thomas is in real danger here, and there's nothing that he can do.
Yeah, 100%, and I think the really interesting thing is he does now clear Thomas Potter and go on the defence. They only closed 6/10 on Adam Lyle last lap. The gap is not coming down enough as Thomas Potter sends it around the outside.
It's an audacious move.
And he's gonna defend it, but Jonathan's gonna come back on the inside. But Thomas, with an incredible defence there, is allowing Giuliano to now close up onto the back of them. But that was some mega racing there and some mega respect from Jonathan as well to give him the room.
Do you know what? I almost don't think Johnny expected that to happen. And, you know, Thomas being last of the late breakers there, with an audacious move around the outside and said, no, thank you, Mr. Ogden. You're not coming around the outside of me. I know exactly what you're going to do, and I know where you're going to put your car, and I'm going to fend you off. And so he has done, and Johnny's going to have to regroup now with 1 minute 40 left of the race and tuck in behind him. I mean, fair play. What a move. And, yeah, great stuff there from Thomas Potter holding his own in P2.
Yeah, 100%. you know, I don't think this battle is over, but what it is doing is allowing Adam Lyle to get away for potentially going for his second win of the season with only 2 laps left. But Giuliano now, with the pace that he showed in race 1 here, we know he's got the pace and he is a championship contender. Can he potentially work his way up and join this fight with Johnny and Thomas? As we see the battle also rage on between Nicky, Josh and Lorenzo. Nicky's starting to clear Lorenzo ever so slightly, who has got past Josh Martin as well. So that's really interesting, as Lorenzo sets a purple sector 1, so even with the tyres going off, the pace is still not dispersed from some of these drivers.
Yeah, that's indeed, and just go to show, Josh Martin's lost a couple of places, and he's not going to take that lightly as he goes round the outside there. An absolutely impressive move that he's done there, and you know, on the marbles, that's not easy to do, as he takes the inside line and says, thank you very much, I'll take P6, and licks a stamp and sends it. As he gets it very sideways on the exit, this is going to put him in danger now. We're seeing this time and time again as we go on board with him, and you know, we're going to tuck on board with Lorenzo Sentra here, as I think we're going to see the exact same thing that we saw between Johnny Ogden and Thomas Potter, as Lorenzo tucks on the inside of that curb and into the toe now of Josh Martin, and I think it's only a matter of time before he takes that toe, and by the top of Arouge is going to be cleared.
Yeah, 100%. Here we go again with the battle between Jonathan Ogden and Thomas Potter, like you mentioned. Is it going to happen this easy this time? He has got the inside.
He's going to make it done.
Going to be lost of the late breakers again. He's going to attempt it, but I don't think it's enough. Yes, it is enough. There's a bit of contact, but Johnny Ogden is going to now have the overspeed and the run, and he's now got P2. But if he can't gap Thomas Potter, you know the toe is effective, and there's another straight waiting for another overtake to happen.
Yeah, well, we can see what Thomas Potter can do in a number of situations here, and you know how he is going into these corners. You know, he doesn't leave any room on the table. He knows exactly what he needs to do here. All he's got to do is tuck back onto the back of Johnny Ogden, get onto the toe of him coming through that straight again, and into the last corner. And Thomas Potter getting very wide, holds it and collects it. Big well done to him, because that's not an easy one to save in these cars. It's almost what we like to call the death slide. And he's managed to collect it. He's not that far off of Johnny. And is it worth saying that Johnny's potentially struggling with his tyres a little bit? Because, you know, he's managed to catch back up with him pretty quickly.
Yeah, 100%. Johnny Ogden, yeah, I mean, the gap is still increasing, but he is really having to overdrive this car now to try and extract the time from it, which potentially is not the best. He has set a purple sector 1 this lap. Obviously with that battling he's lost it, but Giuliano now is closing up on Thomas Potter as we're going to head on to the final lap of the race here. It is going to be extremely interesting to see if there's any last lap mistakes that creep in with the tyres really going off him.
You've got to say, unless anything crazy happens, it's going to be Adam Lyle with the win, Johnny Ogden in P2 and Thomas Potter in P3, which I'm sure he'll be incredibly happy about. But has he got the pace just to catch Johnny Ogden? If he can get a good run now into T1, get late on the brakes here and get a good exit, he's got the opportunity, but I just don't know if he's got the pace on Johnny. I think Johnny's doing everything he needs to, and Thomas Potter getting a good run, but it's just not enough to tuck into the toe. I think he's potentially just maybe a car length or two too far out of the toe, and I think that's potentially going to gift Johnny Ogden the P2. But look, it's still worth saying that Thomas Potter with some incredible moves to be able to hold his own throughout this race, and I'm sure he's battling right until the end here. But you've got to say it is what it is, and unfortunately, you know, this track just aids the overtaking down this back straight. And if you put your car in the right position, you're going to make it stick.
Yeah, 100%. Johnny Ogden now really increasing that gap to Thomas Potter. Thomas Potter with some slides on this lap, so I think his tyres have gone off even more than Johnny Ogden's. Potentially with those, you know, late braking and putting the car in places that you wouldn't expect him to. But the gap is now really coming down to Adam Lyle, but I think he's potentially just backing off, making sure there's no mistakes that creep in and bringing home a second race win of the season, which would be a mega achievement considering, you know, the difficult race 1 he had with just not really any mistakes, but just a sort of lack of pace. He's really bounced back well, and it's showing some mega racing here.
Yeah, as we go on board with Adam Lyle here, 3-second gap to Johnny Ogden, so he's brought the gap down by about 2 seconds, but it's too little too late, I think, as we see Adam Lyle now just cruising, as he did at Red Bull Ring. There's one person to think about here is Carl Felvis, unfortunately just, you know, getting tagged, and from the sounds of things in the YouTube chat, potentially just got swung by someone coming to the right-hander. coming into no name, and you know it sort of is what it is. But hopefully he's still got the points gap that he needs to hold on to that P1 in the championship. But he's going to be, I'm sure, looking at Thomas Potter in P3 and thinking he's going to be gaining some valuable points on him here, where you know Carl's not going to be gaining any. As you know, Adam Lyle now 2.5 seconds ahead. So Johnny Ogden pushing as hard as he can, but it's going to be too little, too late, as Adam Lyle comes into the second to last corner, nice and easy, no messing around, no sliding. Is this going to be the checkered flag? It is indeed. And Adam Lyle going incredibly slow. What's going on here? Has he run out of fuel? He has. Adam Lyle has run out of fuel, and Johnny Ogden has taken P1 in an audacious end to the race here as he takes P2. But Adam Lyle must be kicking himself now. I'm sure he's punching his steering wheel. What has just happened?
I cannot believe what I have just witnessed. What an absolute mare for Adam Lyle. It's still a P2, which is a fantastic result, but he has missed out by 5 tenths at the line to Johnny Ogden. Johnny Ogden, I bet, can't believe his luck.
I'm lost for words. I don't know what to say to that. And he's very lucky that Thomas Potter didn't overtake him for P2 as well. But Johnny Ogden says, thank you very much. I'll take that win away from you. And it just goes to show that it all comes down to the last corner on the last lap. Was it potentially a commentator's curse? As we said, he took it nice and easy into the last few corners. It just goes to show how lean these drivers are taking these cars all the way to the end on fuel. And Adam Lyle is going to be furious. But we say this now, right? But Adam Lyle is still going around the track, so he's got fuel. What happened? It can't be fuel. It must be something else. Was there a hardware malfunction? I'm not sure what it is. Or did he let Johnny Ogden take the win?
That is what I was just thinking. In the same team, Johnny Ogden obviously with a shot at the championship with some good results over the past few races. Potentially it's a bit of teammate work there, but I mean a 1-2 is still nothing to be stiffed at. But yeah, if that is the case, that is some great teamwork and some fantastic sportsmanship from Adam Lyle there. I'm sure it would have been difficult for him to do, but like you say, he's still running, so there's clearly no issues with the fuel. So yeah, I really don't know.
Do you know what? I genuinely thought maybe there was a fuel issue there and he'd run out of fuel and, you know, run the car just too low and didn't make it happen. But him carrying on now, I mean, technically he's teammates with Olivia. He's not teammates with Johnny, but has he gifted the win to Johnny, knowing that Johnny potentially has a shot at the championship? I mean, Johnny's P10 in the championship. He's not up the front there. So is he allowing him them valuable points that he needs? I'm not sure. Do you know what? We're going to find out in the race interviews, and I think that's going to be the biggest part of it. So let's go to an ad break now, and yeah, let's drag these drivers in and find out what happened right at the end there, I suppose.
Indeed. Hello everyone and welcome back after a thrilling race 2. That was, some great racing there. And I'm going to be joined first by Thomas Potter in P3. That was a fantastic drive from yourself, and just getting to the front, and like we've seen in previous races, having some really good racing and some late break moves. That it was some fantastic racing. How was that from your sort of perspective?
Yeah, thanks. Well, to be honest, for me, it was just about getting through the first couple laps, getting out all the traffic, then just picking them off one by one. I mean, I was trying to get enough gap of Johnny because I knew he'd have more race pace than me in the end, but in the end it didn't work. But yeah, just basically just about picking them off one by one, just like I do in karting.
Brilliant. Yeah, we could definitely see some real life experience coming through there with some of the moves you were making. You were making some fantastic sort of racecraft opportunities and forcing your way through with great respect. The second thing I wanted to ask is, obviously the tyres have been playing quite a crucial part there. Obviously following in the dirty air and having some aero wash from some other cars, was that affecting the car at all, or was it pretty good on your end?
For me, it was definitely affecting my car, as well as with the ballast wearing down my tyres, as well as the dirt, yeah. Especially in that middle sector. That's why when Johnny got me inside, I was just trying to get ahead so I can have to clear out in the middle sector. But I think, in all fairness, I probably should have just followed him through, and maybe we could have caught Adam in the end. But yeah, it was just mainly about just trying to keep my tyres as good as possible for the end.
Brilliant. And the last question I wanted to ask, Zandvoort next. How are you? Do you enjoy the circuit, and how are you feeling?
To be honest, I've never really done Zandvoort. I think I've done a couple races there, but from well, I've done it on the F1 games, but obviously that's a bit different. But I do enjoy the track, and it's going to be very strategical on the start going into that long right-hander.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, but go and get yourself some well-deserved rest, and yeah, I'm sure we'll be talking to you again very shortly. But until then, good luck and have a good week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Some much needed points there for Thomas Potter in P3, and a big congratulations to him. That's definitely going to help his championship battle. As we move on to P2, Adam Lyle. Adam, talk us through that race. I think there's a lot of people in the YouTube chat that are a bit confused as to what happened on the last corner there, as we thought that you broke down with no fuel and then proceeded to continue around the track for your cool down lap. So tell us what happened.
Well, me, Johnny, Olivia, and that, we're all teammates anyway. Johnny's in with a chance of the championship, so let him have the extra 2 points. We calculated it quite well. I told him in voice chat that I was going to do it, so I just had to time it to make sure I didn't lose any more positions.
Well, Adam, look, let's put it this way. Red Bull Ring, you had the reverse grid race, you had that set, you had a 4.5 second gap. Luckily, you were not tainted by the commentator's curse, and you weren't tainted again, as we thought, in this second race, in the reverse grid race here at Spa. But great sportsmanship between you guys, and I think we've spoken about this many a time on stream around teams getting together and favouring a certain driver that might have the opportunity and the pace to go out and win the championship, especially with Carl Felvis not finishing that race. That's some much needed points from Johnny. Big well done to you for that. But just talk us through how the tyres are feeling, how the pace was. Was the car starting to drop off at any point, or was it just smooth sailing?
Yeah, I've noticed both races. Tyres dropped off sort of mid-race for me. So second half of that, I was more just coasting into more corners, just taking it steady, just to make sure I didn't spin it out. I don't know whether you cursed me in the first race, but I must have dropped it 10 times again.
we didn't curse you. Do you know what? We spoke about this before, and we were refraining from the commentators' curses as much as possible, because it seems that every time we say something, someone spins it or goes round or gets collected or something like that. So we refrained from putting any of that pressure on anyone or jinxing anyone's races. But Adam, a big congratulations to you. Is there anyone that you wanted to shout out on the stream before you go?
No, just well done, Johnny, mate. You deserve that.
Happy days. There we go. Well, Adam Lyle in P2 there, and a big congratulations to you. Some well-deserved points that you needed for the championship, and look forward to speaking to you at Zandvoort potentially.
Thanks, see you later.
Brilliant. Well, I am going to take the final interview of the night here with Jonathan Ogden. Jonathan, it's been an interesting night racing for you. Obviously, in race 1 we had that little incident with Kyle, but you still managed to recover to 6th place, or 6th place in the end, and bringing home the win in that final one. How was that on your end?
Yeah, that was good. It's a bit bittersweet, as I think it could have been a back-to-back. But still very happy with it. Pole position, top 10 first. That's some good points. I think that takes me quite up the leaderboard in the championship too, which is nice.
100%. And obviously, as we've alluded to earlier, the championship is so close. Every point counts, really. What are your sort of preparations going into Zandvoort? Is it lots of time on the sim for yourself, or is it playing around with setup, or how do you go about that?
Just time. Just time equals knowledge on the tracks, doesn't it? So you learn a lot more, and also working with the team. So like Adam and Olivia, learning off each other as well. Some of us are quicker in some areas than the others, so we can learn what we might be doing right and what might not be doing right, and then we can learn off each other, and all three of us be up there.
Brilliant. And we are very happy to announce as well, you have received Driver of the Day for this evening's racing. You've put on a spectacular show. And finally, just before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank and shout out for that?
I got some pretty bleak news. Literally about a minute before the start of race 1. So this win goes to my nan. Joyce Ogden. She sadly passed away, so that goes to her.
Oh wow. Well, that must make it even more sort of crucial for yourself. And rest in peace, Joyce. I'm sure she'll be very proud of you. And good luck with all your racing endeavours this year. And I'm sure we'll be speaking to you again at Zandvoort. But until then, have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
We're incredibly sorry to hear that for you, Johnny, and our wishes go to you and also your family at this time. So, our deepest condolences to yourself and your family for that one. Okay, as we now move on, obviously Johnny Ogden taking the driver of the day from that round, and as we move on now to the race calendar for round 5 of our F4 World Championship here. So Zandvoort is the next round that we're going up against as our drivers look to compete for the championship. And look, we've said this many a time, these teams are now going to work together to potentially favour certain drivers around the circuit, and there's only a certain few people that are potentially in for the winnings here for the championship, and points mean prizes, so this is what everyone's going to be going for. And it's going to be interesting. If the past 4 races are going to be what it's like for the rest of the season, then I am looking massively forward to it. So that's all we've got time for this evening. Thank you ever so much for joining, and thank you for all the comments in the YouTube chat. If you haven't subscribed to us already, please make sure you do, and we look forward to seeing you at the next round next Wednesday. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.